Browns coach clears the air about Shedeur Sanders' practice status. The Cleveland Browns are carefully managing their quarterback depth chart as the 2025 NFL season approaches. Joe Flacco remains the established starter, but questions have emerged about how the team is developing its younger quarterbacks behind him. Radio analyst Tony Rizzo recently suggested that rookie Shedeur Sanders was not participating in scout team duties during practice. The comment sparked discussion among fans about Sanders' development and role within the organization. Quarterbacks coach Bill Musgrave addressed those concerns this week, clarifying how Cleveland utilizes its backup quarterbacks. He explained that all three reserve quarterbacks, Dillon Gabriel, Sanders, and Bailey Zappe, rotate through scout team responsibilities as part of a deliberate coaching strategy. The fact that they're out there and having to make decisions and process and then deliver throws accurately, all that is really good. We try to engineer it or orchestrate it, where certain concepts almost meet our quarterbacks. So, I'd say last week, Bailey did some really good things that tried to replicate Joe Burrow. We're doing some things to replicate Baltimore's quarterback Lamar this week, with all three guys to really give the defense a good look. Because being a scout team quarterback, you're working on your own craft. But really, it's an art form to replicate the opponents, so the defense can be ready to do their thing on Sunday, Musgrave said. While using three quarterbacks in that capacity is uncommon, he described it as an intentional approach to maximize preparation. Sanders remains third on the depth chart behind Flacco and Gabriel despite being selected in the 5th round from Colorado. The arrangement allows him to gain valuable experience reading defenses and processing concepts under pressure. The system serves dual purposes for Cleveland. It provides better preparation for the defense while developing young quarterbacks for potential future roles. However, some fans remain frustrated with the pace of Sanders' advancement. Many supporters view Sanders as the franchise's long-term answer, but question whether the coaching staff is moving too cautiously. Cleveland continues evaluating based on practice performance as Sanders works to prove his readiness for expanded opportunities. In Berea, Ohio, the sun peeked through gray September clouds, and the Cleveland Browns practice field buzzed with the usual energy of game week. But the air wasn't filled just with the sounds of pads clashing and quarterbacks calling out signals. It carried the whispers of rumors, the chatter of speculation, and the loud curiosity of a fan base desperate to know what's really going on with Shedeur Sanders. The rookie quarterback, once the star of Colorado football, once hailed as the son of a legend destined to carve out his own name in the NFL, had suddenly become the subject of uncertainty. Reports swirled online. Some claimed he'd been benched. Others suggested he was injured. A few even argued he'd quietly fallen out of favor in Cleveland before ever getting a chance to play. By mid-morning, the story reached Kevin Stefanski's office. The Browns head coach leaned back in his chair, shaking his head at the mounting narrative. He had spent years managing egos, game plans, and crises both real and imagined. But this was different. The frenzy surrounding Shedeur had a life of its own. Every small absence from a drill, every conversation with trainers, every clip from practice was magnified. So Stefanski decided it was time to clear the air. The press conference. "All right, guys," Stefanski began, stepping up to the podium after practice, his steady voice cutting through the noise of reporters shuffling their notepads and phones. "Let me address the question I know everybody has. Shedeur Sanders." A few murmurs rippled through the room. Cameras clicked. "Shedeur's status hasn't changed," Stefanski continued, pausing deliberately. "He's practicing with the team. He's healthy. And he's doing exactly what we've asked him to do as part of his development." The words were simple, but the message was layered. Stefanski knew he wasn't just speaking to reporters. He was speaking to the fans, the locker room, and perhaps most importantly, to Shedeur himself. "There's a lot of noise out there," Stefanski added, gesturing vaguely toward the media. "I get it. He's a young player with a big name. But the reality is this: practice is about preparation. Some days he's with the scout team, helping us simulate the other team's quarterback. Some days he's working closely with our staff on mechanics, reads, protections. None of that means he's been benched. None of that means he's in the doghouse. It means he's learning the game at the NFL level. And he's doing a good job at it." Shedeur's side of the story. Back in the locker room, Shedeur himself sat at his stall, scrolling through headlines on his phone. The noise was relentless. Every sports show had an opinion, every Twitter feed a theory. Some even compared his situation to other quarterbacks who never lived up to the hype. But Shedeur wasn't rattled. Not really. He had grown up in the spotlight. Cameras had followed him since high school. Critics had always found reasons to doubt him, even when he was putting up video game numbers at Colorado. What people didn't see now, he thought, was the work, the quiet, grinding hours in the film room, the conversations with coaches, the drills that didn't make the highlight reels. When reporters approached him after practice, Shedeur echoed Stefanski's sentiment, though with his own confident twist. "Look," he said, flashing that trademark calm demeanor, "I know people want to talk. That's cool. But I'm out here every day working. If I'm running scout team, I'm gonna give the defense the best look possible. If I'm sitting in the film room, I'm making sure I'm ready when my number's called. None of this is new to me. Pressure. That's been my whole life." Inside the locker room, among his teammates, the narrative wasn't nearly as dramatic as the media made it out to be. Veteran quarterback Joe Flacco, now the unquestioned starter, leaned on decades of experience when asked about Shedeur. "The kid's got talent. That's obvious. But this league's about patience. You don't just walk in and take over. You've got to learn the speed, the reads, the rhythm. He's doing the right things. Anybody who says otherwise just isn't here watching him every day." Even defensive players, who lined up against him in scout drills, vouched for his competitiveness. Linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah laughed when a reporter asked if Shedeur was slacking. "Slacking? Nah," JOK said. "He comes at us hard. Doesn't matter if he's mimicking Lamar Jackson one week or Joe Burrow the next. He takes it serious. And trust me, we notice. He makes us better." The bigger picture. For Cleveland fans, Stefanski's clarification was a reminder of the long view. This wasn't about Shedeur winning the starting job in September. It wasn't even about this season alone. It was about building a quarterback who could one day lead the Browns into the future. That future wasn't guaranteed, of course. Football rarely deals in guarantees. But in Stefanski's mind, there was a simple truth. Quarterbacks don't develop in chaos. They develop in clarity. And clearing the air about Shedeur's practice status was as much about protecting his growth as it was about quelling rumors.